Welcome to Freshly Forever, a podcast that gives you fascinating insights week after week. Here's your host, Vi Kumar. Hey folks, welcome to another episode on podcast Freshly Forever. Today I have the honor of interviewing Akil Taher, who is a book author, heart-healthy speaker, resurgent physician, a septuagenarian athlete, and a whole food plant-based lifestyle movement activist. It's just such a joy for me to have Dr. Taher on the show, sharing his health and well-being journey and how he transitioned to a whole food plant-based diet and how he is now helping many transition to this form of lifestyle and healthy living. Hey, Dr. Taher, welcome to the show. Such an honor to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me, Vi. I am so happy and honored to be on your show.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to be here with us. And we are here to talk about heart health, which is of paramount importance in today's context. And so how to live heart healthy is something that you are very passionate about. You have personal experience with also. And your book, Open Heart, is something I encourage every listener to read. So that's what we are here to talk about. And you say in your book, success breeds arrogance and it feeds ignorance. Can we start there? And how about you take us through that walk in Hyde Park, London, and what happened there, Dr. Taher?
Okay, let me just start by saying that I wear three hats. I wear the hat of a resurgent physician, meaning that I now treat more the cause of the disease rather than the consequence after it has happened. My second hat is I am a heart disease survivor, having had open heart bypass surgery. And the third is that I am an endurance septuagenarian athlete. Wearing the three hats gives me a perspective of everybody. So I can understand people who are my patients now and also the athletes who worry about where are they getting their protein from, calcium from. So I can understand that. But coming to your question about success, see, success always breeds. It definitely breeds a certain amount of arrogance, which should not be there. And then arrogance goes and starts breeding ignorance. You get swollen-headed. People who are there get swollen-headed. Then they feel whatever I'm doing is right. Nobody can change this. It is my way or the highway. This is what happens. So a lot of kingdoms have been lost because of this. A lot of presidents and CEOs are lost because once you become that strong-headed, you do not want to listen to anybody, then comes your downfall. But
you kind of get stuck in that thought process, right? That you are right.
Absolutely. And what my point is that success should be followed with humility and wisdom. See, wisdom does not come to people who don't want to be wise. So once you get that, then you are doing okay. But let's put it over to the professionals. Like doctors or engineers or CEOs or business people or lawyers, what have you. What happens? We have really spent a lot of time in studying and getting our knowledge. All of us, our skills and knowledge. But once we decide that, no, this is the only way to go, then becomes a problem. So somebody comes around and gives you a solution. Why don't you take this path? You don't want to do it. And that is the reason I talk about it, because consequence of the diseases, we are experts as doctors. You got heart disease, you got a heart this thing, we can get a heart transplant. We are great. You got blood pressure, I can give you pills. My point is, there's a simple solution, not to get this in the first place. So somebody comes around like me, resurgent physician, and talks to a real physician. Why don't you follow this path so that you don't have to chronic diseases? There is a role for conventional medicine, but for chronic diseases, why are we not using this path? But arrogance has made them forget that, and they have now become ignorant. That is what my point about that was.
Okay, and your journey there and Hyde Park, London led to your personal transformation, right? That was the starting point for it all. So why don't you talk about what happened there and what led to the rest of the journey?
See, I went to meet a very good friend of mine. And since he was working, I was not at that time an exercising or anything. I said, let me take a stroll in Hyde Park. This is the first time that when I was walking and I timed it. First time I did not time it, but I got this chest pain, which was radiating to my left arm. And I got a little dizzy and I knew this was not because the moment I sat down, it disappeared. I started again and I calculated exactly 4 minutes. I got the chest pain again.
Mm-hmm.
Now I knew in my heart of heart that this is the heart, but I refused to believe that. I refused to believe that. I was terrified at that time. So I thought of every cause of chest pain which is not related to the heart. So because being terrified, and that is the first time I thought to myself, I wish I was not a doctor.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Because you just wish you didn't know that much information. Whatever you knew, kind of you were averse to it, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, and that really made me feel that I know this thing, but I was still into denial.
Mm-hmm.
I did not want to wait in London. I wanted to come back to the US. And I came down to my hometown. I said, before I go to my cardiologist, let me try one more time. So I went to the local gym.
Mm-hmm.
And I went on the local gym and I started on the gym, on the treadmill. And first, nothing happened. So I was doing a very slow walk, 20 minutes a mile. Then I started at 15 minutes. The moment I started jogging, boom,
Mm-hmm.
chest pain. And therefore I pushed the red button, which is there, on the treadmills.
Mm-hmm.
And I fell and I had tears in my eyes. And there was a gentleman who came around to pick me up, young person. They said, what's wrong? And I was so ashamed that I said, no, these are my allergies that have acted up. But why I'm making this point so clear is there is another route, not having stents or open heart surgery, if you got angina, which I had.
Mm-hmm.
You got a heart attack, excruciating chest pain, you're short of breath, you got diaphoresis, sweating. By all means, 911, go over to the emergency room, get yourself a stent, get yourself open heart surgery. You are in situation of an angina. You must ask your doctor, is there any other option? Can I go to Dr. Esselstyn where I can reverse my coronary artery disease just by nutrition?
Mm-hmm.
Is nutrition.
Yeah, it was really hard, you being a physician, for you to find yourself in the shoes of a patient with all that information, aversion feeling, and that feeling of denial. I can completely understand that. And you refer to certain diseases as man made, Dr. Taher. Why is it that you say those are man made when the world believes that, hey, diabetes, heart conditions, they're all genetic? I get it because my mom has it or my dad has it. And so, how is lifestyle playing into someone's well being?
See, we all, my cohorts and my people who work, who are like-minded, like Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Neil Barnard, and all those, we believe that the whole food plant-based diet is the way to go about, which can not only treat or prevent, but reverse heart disease.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when we say heart disease, it encompasses all the chronic diseases, which I believe are man-made because they should not happen in the first place. Blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, obesity, certain cancers, respiratory diseases, diverticulitis, where you have your colon and all that involved, heartburns, regurgitation. These are all man-made and can be avoided. So the thing common for all these common diseases is what? First is they're all inflammatory.
Mm-hmm.
They're all oxidative. That is why we use antioxidants. Number 3, they all have a telomere shortening, which is the DNA. Both the gut bacteria is disturbed. And gut bacteria is a 5-pound thing lying in your tummy, as important as your brain, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, you have the overstimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. whereby initially for the fight and flight response it is okay, but it becomes chronicity, then you get the cortisone levels. So all these are common for the chronic diseases I've talked about. People say that genetics plays only 10 to 15% of your health outcome. And this too can be mitigated or negated by a proper lifestyle so that epigenetics comes into play. And
Mm-hmm.
epigenetics is the one which does not change your DNA, but it changes your body's response to the DNA if it has got the proper diet, proper exercise, proper healthy living, so proper lifestyle change, then this can be done. So that is why I have a very bad genetics. My mother died at 69, my sister died at 69, my brother died at 52. All blood pressure, diabetes, stroke is running in my family.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have made it a point to fight my genetics. And that is what I'm doing. Yes, a lot of damage has been done because before 61, I was not what I am today.
Mm-hmm.
So I've eaten everything wrong. I've had meat 3 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And no exercise. I was a couch potato. So right now I'm trying to change myself. And I've changed myself. So I am feeling absolutely as a new person.
Mm-hmm.
I can now do a 5K faster than when I could do it at the age of 60.
How nice.
So age is not a problem when people talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Is heart disease, is heart health compromised more in certain cultures than others, you think?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. We South Asians, and when I say South Asians, we mean people mainly from India, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, as far as Bhutan and Maldives.
Mm-hmm.
And so we are all South Asians. We are 25% of the world's population, roughly. We carry 60% of the world's heart disease.
Oh, no.
Yes. In India, from 2000 to 2019, this thing increased doubled for heart disease. Now, what has happened, even in the United States, we are 4 times more likely to get heart disease than other ethnic groups, like the Japanese, Koreans, or Chinese.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting our heart disease at a younger age. 25% are getting it before they reach the age of 40, and 50% are getting it before they reach the age of 55. Therefore, the American Heart Association says that being of South Asian descent is an independent risk factor for heart disease.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, when we go a little bit more into depth, why and what is being done? See, we are a small community compared to the whites and the blacks. So what happens is we do not have too much of research facilities. We don't have the money for that. But there is a study which is called the Masala study. That is the mediators of South Asians living in America.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was when they did a study with 40 between the ages about 1100 people, I don't know why they took this number, 1100, between the ages of 40 and 84, what they found was that people of South Asian descent do not appear obese according to the Western terminology, but they carry fat. They carry fat in their abdomen.
Mm-hmm.
So it is called visceral obesity. This visceral obesity is where fat is deposited into your muscles, in your liver, and around the heart. The subcutaneous fat just below the skin is perfectly okay. But this fat which is there, so if we go by body mass index, according to Western term, we will have a problem. We will not be able to, we will be slipping through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
So my point first is that according to the body mass index, it's 25, up to 25 is normal. We should keep it as 23.
Mm-hmm.
Our obesity as South Asians should be 28, not 30 and above. Do an abdominal girth, and you will find that 35 is supposed to be normal in males and 30 is normal in females. I would go lower for South Asians, 32 for 33 for males and 28 for female. But we do carry fat. My body mass index when I had my heart disease was only 22.
Mm-hmm.
So obese, but I was carrying a pouch. So that is the first thing. What are the other things that we South Asians have? We're insulin resistant. When people hear this thing, insulin resistant, I tell them very simply, a layperson, is that when you get sugar in your blood, the insulin carries this sugar to the cells and it is used as energy. But if your cell is deposited with fat, then it comes back into the blood and you get your blood sugar rise, and therefore you get pre-diabetic and diabetic. Third thing, we for some reason, and we are studying on this, calcium is very much more deposited in our coronaries. Number 4, our coronaries are very small compared to others. And we have got larger lesions in our coronaries. We got multiple vessel disease, and we got tight stenosis when we have that blockage. And then independent risk factors are like spilling protein in the urine, which is more so in our this thing. Our women, they are more likely to get gestational diabetes as opposed to other women. And finally, your age group is different. But my age group, the first generation of Indians of my age group, we did not know how to spell exercise. And so we were all sedentary slobs or couch potatoes, including myself. So, and then our food habits. Think about our food habits. We have mostly saturated fats, oils, processed food, sugars, refined foods. All this is, something why we got a connection with oil. We've got a cultural connection with oil. If in my family or otherwise, if we don't use oil, means that you're showing generosity to a person in our culture, which is wrong. It's a sign of warmth. If you have a pot of curry on your dining table, and if it's not floating of oil like the Valdi slick, that means you're not doing justice to your guests. And this oil is absolutely neutral. There's no nutrient in oil. So the idea is that this cultural connection to oil is so deeply ingrained into it that I have seen people use the oil again and again, the same oil back in India. I've seen this. And if you use that oil again and again at very high temperatures, it becomes those meat products or things like this, secrete chemicals that become cancerous, carcinogenic.
Do you think this happens only to South Asians, or what about the standard American diet, and what about other Western cultures, and what about people, say, in the Mediterranean region? So how do the other cultural folks succumb to heart disease if and when that happens in those cultures?
The standard American diet is very aptly called the SAD diet: meat, eggs, dairy, sugar. Now, this is the worst diet. But my point is this. Why is it that 80% of Indians are vegetarians? 75 to 80%. Why are we the heart disease capital of the world? It's because of our dairy, saturated fat and cholesterol is in there. Because of our overuse of oil and butter and ghee. Do you know that ghee has now, just 2 weeks back, I was doing some studies, and it said that ghee has got where you have oxidized cholesterol, which is terrible, worse than the regular cholesterol. Tenfold increase in oxidized cholesterol if you use ghee. But then comes the question is, so many talks have gone around and people have asked me that, look, is ghee helpful and can we use a teaspoonful, this and that? No. If you want medically speaking, no. If you're talking about certain, because all I'm saying is questions that have been put forward to me. The Sri Krishna Bhagwan used to drink dahi and ghee and all that. So I turn around and say, look, I am not a religious expert at all. I'm only talking about from the viewpoint of what it is medically wrong now. In those days, do you have the means to put a cow in your shed and feed the grass totally? No, you don't. Dairy in this country is liquid meat, saturated fat and cholesterol. Rip Esselstyn said it very aptly. 1 ounce of meat is equivalent to 2% of regular milk, a cup of 2% milk. And look at the milk. How do you get milk on the shelves of your grocery stores? You have to impregnate the cow continuously. So you push estrogens like crazy. And this estrogen in the milk that comes in is one of the leading causes of prostate cancer in men. So that estrogen that you are having, you are getting saturated fat, you are getting cholesterol, you are getting a load on your kidneys, so you get renal functions which are going down. You get osteoporosis faster with your meats. Why in the world would anybody want to have meat and dairy or meat for that matter? Then you have the question of lactose intolerant. Do you know 70% of the people in the world are lactose intolerant? But we say that because we have the belching and distension, oh, we have enjoyed the meal. No, that is wrong. You're not enjoyed the meal. You're lactose intolerant. And one final thing, when my patients, when I tell them to give up milk, dairy, they come back to me in 6 months and say, I ask them, have you given up dairy? And they say, yes. I say, what about cheese? They say, no, we have the cheese. Why? Because it takes a large quantity of milk to make a small quantity of cheese. And cheese, we got casein, a protein which is found in cow's milk. And that protein turns into casomorphin. So that casomorphin becomes an addictive quality, like morphine. So the last thing people want to give up is cheese. They say, I can give up everything, but I can't give up cheese.
Yeah, it's interesting you pointed that out. Back in a moment with our guest on Fresh Leaf Forever. So, how much is all the sugar in the diet contributing to that getting deposited also as fat? And how much is all the fat consumption in the first place also playing into people's lives in a detrimental way, Dr. Taher?
See, fat, I just told you. If it goes into your cells, it blocks the cell, and the sugar comes back. So fat is mainly responsible for diabetes and not carbohydrate. We'll talk about the carbohydrate. Let's talk about sugar. Sugar, we are talking about fructose, correct? Now, there is fructose in the sugar that you have in your at our homes, and there's fructose in bananas, apples, grapes, what have you. Now, think about a sugar cube and think about beet cube. See, that beet cube has a lot of fiber. So ideally, your sugar is going according to your body's way of rising slowly because of the fiber and the phytonutrients. The natural sugar. But when you take fructose from sugar, just plain sugar, that picks up and down, which is harmful. Whether you take, so that is why you can eat, you don't hog on maize or corn. You don't keep on eating. But corn syrup, think about it. You will use a lot of, we have corn syrup in everything, even in the Coca-Cola and everything. So that is my point, that you can take as much of fruits even if you're diabetic, because that fiber is there, which will help the slow absorption of sugar. Plus, it helps in making your gut bacteria more healthy.
Yeah, and people don't seem to realize that. Everyone wants to just eat more of meat, and then the fiber that you pointed out seems to almost become like a forgotten story. I mean, people think, oh, I'm eating vegetables, but is there enough vegetables? Is there enough fruits when compared to the amount of everything else, the flour, the sugar, and the meat that one is consuming? I guess that's where the whole trade-off to ill health begins, right?
Absolutely. You're so right. And this is why. And this is the meat products are also, I was just talking to a documentary maker, filmmaker, who is Pakistani Canadian. And he wants to change the eating habits in Pakistan because they're meat eaters. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner is meat. And he has come because he has made a documentary on the fur, the fox. The foxes should not be killed. My point was also that some person asked that, look, we have like cultural we are talking about. So if they have the Eid and they sacrifice a goat to for the greater goodness for the way culture is, I said no. Again, I am not going into the religion. I am not talking about it. But meat has bad for your health. Period. So you cannot do it. And then on top of it, I believe very strongly that I gave up People give up meat, dairy, eggs, and all that and become vegan for three reasons. One is for climatic reason, one is to cruelty to animals, and the third thing is health reason.
Mm-hmm.
I did it for health reason. My wife and daughter for the last 30 years, they are vegans because of cruelty to animals. And my son is still eating a little bit of chicken because he's a hospitalist. So very difficult for him to get that, but still, we are working on it. But again, never force somebody, never tell them, oh my God, you're going to live long, oh, you're going to do this. Tell them to try it and see how happy you feel. And so I turned around and told this Canadian guy that I also believe when I did it for health, now I can understand what it is animal husbandry is doing to the climate. Now I can understand more that how this, if you believe in animal rights, no matter how you raise an animal or how you cut an animal, it is morally wrong.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, we wouldn't want us to be cut open, right? So I guess it's the same principle that applies there as well. And what about diseases leading to deterioration in mental health? You started talking about spirituality in your book as well. And what is the role of positivity in achieving all this homeostasis, if you will, in bringing back balance in the body when someone is going through like a health condition or even as a preventative in the first place? The role of meditation, the role of spirituality, and all of that, because I think you have personal experience on that front too.
I am going to go to API, American Association of Physicians from India,
Mm-hmm.
their annual convention, and I have been asked to be an ambassador to tell my story. And this is the first time in 40 years we are having a wellness program. First time in 40 years. So I was very pleased with that because it's going to be on meditation, yoga, spirituality. So there are a lot of excellent speakers who are coming from all over the world to talk over there. I am a big follower, and I'm not asking your listeners to do what I do, whatever is best for them, but I'm just giving you my example. I followed The Art of Living by Sri Sri Ravi Shankar, and it has helped me tremendously in my life. So I did their meditation, their pranayamas, the breathing exercises, and it has helped me tremendously. Now, just to give you an example, after my stents were put in, the next 5 years, I did not change my life.
Mm-hmm.
Next 5 years were the most devastating years of my life. I was severely depressed. I used to sit for long hours, look at nothing. I would have crying bouts. I would get mad and throw things around, using anger as a cover up for the deep despair I felt. So I was in a terrible situation and I wanted to be alone. I did not want any company. I would just stay there.
Mm-hmm.
That was a depression, and I didn't know how to get out of it.
It probably was like a why me kind of state, correct?
Yes, because I thought that I was invincible. And I thought that being a doctor, that the fraternity of doctors has let me down. I thought that it would be a quick fix of whatever I would because I am a physician.
Mm-hmm.
Stupidity. But then when I went to the Yatra, Mount Kailash in Lake Mansarovar, at that time when we finished, it was very, very difficult because we did it on foot. And this was in 2010. It was so bad that the last 3 days you are just walking and walking with hail, storm, oxygen less, 19,000 feet. The moment we finished our parikrama, I wanted to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
But he was high-fiving. I wanted to be alone. This aloneness was different from the aloneness of my depression. I was very calm. I was very collected. I was very serene. I was thankful. I was wondering, what are these material things? Can I live without all this? Basic is this. And so I'd come to, of course, I have got a lot of skeletons in my closet, but I'm saying at that moment, I felt very good.
And this was how many years after the first incident of your heart attack?
Bypass surgery, 1 year. After 1 year, I climbed Mount Kailash.
And because you changed your diet?
I changed my diet, but I did not do it all at once. I was gradual. I first became a flexitarian. I cut back on meat, eggs, dairy, and became more of a omnivore as opposed to a carnivore, which I was before. And then I slowly turned into a herbivore, and then I became a junk food vegan and vegetarian. So we'll come to that if you want to. But right now, the question is that what helped me was that there are a lot of people who have the natural ability to be in a meditative state 24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not one of those. Yes, I can exercise, I can do the right diet, but my mind. So what has helped me is, like right now, even meditation with my wife in the evening, she will do it beautifully for 20 minutes. After 5 minutes, my mind will wander. So I'm learning. Age is not, again, a limiting factor for somebody to learn something.
Mm-hmm.
It is not the days when my father used to always say, whatever I say is right. No, that was those days. I don't blame him. That was a way things were. But with this thing is different. I learn from my children. The children learn from me. It's a two-way traffic.
Mm-hmm.
Respect, yes. But respect does not come. You have to earn the respect.
Mm-hmm.
So my point was that, yes, I did all these things, but meditation, I had to depend like crutches. I used meditation and yoga to help me with that point of depression and all that. Without that, I would not have made it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that. And then you talked about being a couch potato earlier, and a lot of people not exercising still to the extent that they need to. I'm not saying, go to the gym and stay there forever, but I guess realizing the importance of exercise and the benefit that it brings. So why don't you talk about that, Dr. Taher? Why is exercise important in conjunction with diet? Or is diet alone enough?
Diet is more important than exercise, number one. You cannot outrun your diet. Even if you do 5 kilometers and eating a regular diet, your 5 kilometers, you will burn about 300 to 400 calories. You go to McDonald's and eat one burger and it'll be 700 calories.
Mm-hmm.
So it is useless. Your diet has become, your running has become useless or whatever activity. But having said that, if your diet is proper, then your exercise comes into play. Now, I believe every physician on this globe, on this earth, should write a prescription for exercise. That you should be exercising half an hour a day for 5 days in a week in a stress-free environment.
Mm-hmm.
I say stress-free because I had patients, husband and wife, who I told them they were having high blood pressure, cholesterol, please go and exercise. They went around there, came back after 4 months, and they said, Doc, you've given the worst advice ever. I said, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
They said, we went over there and we fought, and we came back fighting. So that is why I always say, have a stress-free environment, number one. Number two, when you exercise, if you're doing it for your heart, if you're doing it for your heart, you should reach 70% of your maximum heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what would be my maximum heart rate? Take for me, I'm 74 years old. If you do 200 minus 74 will be my maximum heart rate.
Mm-hmm.
So 200 minus 74 will be some 140 or 145, 46, whatever. 70% of that will be 104, 105. If I don't reach that 70%, it is not being cardio protected.
Okay.
That's number one. Now, people say that means I should not be doing it at all. No. When you walk and don't get your heart rate to 70%, you're still benefiting, but not cardiac. You're getting endorphins that make you feel better. You may get a bounce on your good cholesterol. It becomes higher. My good cholesterol was only 29, which is very, very low.
Mm-hmm.
It is 58 because continuing exercise. Number three, if you exercise properly with the cardio, your heart rate will come down. And then when your heart rate comes down, think about it. Now your heart rate is down. That means your heart has to do less work for the oxygen to be taken from the blood into the cells.
Mm-hmm.
Less work of the heart. We are having a lot of benefits, and therefore your blood pressure will reduce. So exercise is a must. The people tell me, oh, I've got this osteoarthritis and my doctor said that I should get shots and I can't do exercise. Look, mate, osteoarthritis is not going to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart disease is going to kill you. It is the number one leading cause of death in the world today, killing more people than all the cancers combined. So let's wake up. the fact. And especially when I'm doing telemedicine and I let people call me, on my phone number, even otherwise if they're not in my group. 3 months back, two couples, both women crying on the phone. One was a 47-year-old man but he was leading a life which was terrible. Smoker, drink, all that. South Asian guy. Number two was a clean South Asian. Not obese, nothing lean, no cigarettes, no this thing, no meat, vegetarian.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them, massive heart attacks. So I had to talk to these women, these wives. Poor things, they're young. And it is very difficult to talk. That is the greatest challenge in my practice, is when I have to talk to these people. Because they're my people. I'm a South Asian. I got it. I don't want people to get a kick on their high knees the way I got.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my point. The exercise and diet. But diet, number one. Number two, exercise. These two things, if you can do that, you are almost on a road to a good life.
And you point out beautifully in your book the role of exercise. It can bring about cellular regeneration, and the sweating helps with detoxification of the organs. And most importantly, exercise is a stress buster, correct? It's meant to be a stress buster, not like the couple that came back and told you, hey, we get more stress doing exercise than, like the benefit that we are seeing.
Correct. But they were sort of in the argument before they went for the exercise. So they were going on. I said, no, be relaxed first, then exercise, and then come back. So that was a thing.
Yeah. And you also talked about good cholesterol. So why don't you tell listeners about HDL versus LDL and triglycerides, the importance of all of this, and which parameter means what, and which one is more significant, and how one can build good cholesterol.
Okay, let me start by saying that anybody who is cholesterol is total cholesterol is 150 or less, and their bad cholesterol, LDL, is 70 or less, there is very minuscule chance of them ever getting a heart disease.
Mm-hmm. Is triglycerides important there?
Yes. But I'll come to that. But I'm just talking about a cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
Got less than 150 and total, and less than 70 on your bad cholesterol, then you are in the safe zone.
Okay. Does HDL not matter when you talk about those two?
No. If you got these two things, your HDL is bound to get high.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are having LDL less, because LDL is almost, I've seen people with 140 for total cholesterol. LDL is like 60 or 50. Then the rest of it becomes good cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
Good cholesterol becomes a garbage truck. It pulls away all the bad cholesterol. So that way, your good cholesterol, the higher it is, the better. I've got 12 patients in my practice. 9 of them are women whose good cholesterols are over 100. And I kid with them that common cold will kill you, but not a heart disease. Now, triglycerides, these are the glycerol and fatty acids combination. What I found in our South Asians, trust me, this is so important. I find most of my South Asians, 17% women, 33% men, they've got low HDL and high triglyceride. This combination is dynamite. Low HDL, high triglycerides. Now, can you imagine that I've had patients, normal is 150 triglyceride. I've had patients who have got 1,000, 5,000, and I had one patient in the Middle East when I was there, when we opened the first Gulf Medical School, one patient, 10,000. And these people who got thousands in the triglyceride, you can naked see the blood. It's like a cheese sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And I do slide presentation of South Asians and heart disease. That's a 1-hour talk where I show them these slides. So that combination is dynamite. A low HDL and a high triglyceride.
So you're saying that's dangerous.
That's dangerous. And metabolic syndrome, whereby you get high blood pressure, high blood sugar, visceral obesity, all these things are 33% of men have it, South Asians, and 17% of women have it. So there is something going on. And I personally believe that apart from us having low coronaries and the research is being done, calcium in our coronaries and all that, insulin resistant, we have to change our diet. Now it has become a double whammy. because India has come up out so much and is improving in its economic, people are better. Now comes in what? Heart disease was always a rich man's disease in India. A poor person in the village never got it. Now, when they've got money, they start following the rich and start eating burgers and doing that. So now you've got the own, at home, your mother cooks the curry in oil and butter and ghee. And outside you go and eat all the Burger King and McDonald's. Disaster.
And what about earlier we just mentioned, say, other cultures, right? Do you think the Mediterranean diet is way better and they are not influenced or impacted by anything relating to heart disease or obesity or any such, pre-existing uh, conditions, that they are kind of safe?
The point is that it is better to be on a Mediterranean diet than to be on a standard American diet. Now, Mediterranean diet, also think about it. It has got a lot of plant-based food, the five groups that we talk about. That is your legumes with beans and lentils and all that, your fruits, your vegetables, your grains, like I had never even heard of amaranth and quinoa and brown rice, and then finally your nuts. They have a lot of this in there, but they believe that olive oil, unsaturated fat, is okay. But there's no science backup. Of course, it is a better diet than our Indian diet, the bad Indian diet, and the sad American diet, and everything else. So they have done studies and they live longer. But if you want to completely avoid these chronic diseases, or if you've got a disease and you want to reverse it, you cannot do it by Mediterranean. It'll help you. 100% it'll help you. So if you're a regular person using a Mediterranean diet and doing it, that's great. But it is much better than what we are eating. It does not have too much processed and refined foods. Whole food, plant-based. A plant-based diet is the one that we go to. And we feel that it is not. In my time, it was not tasty. Now you got so many restaurants in Atlanta. I mean, I just go to Kava and I put my things in.
Hey folks, you were listening to Dr. Akil Taher on leading a heart healthy life and how diet and exercise and lifestyle in general plays such a crucial role in one feeling healthy when it comes to chronic health conditions. Stay tuned for part 2 of this excellent conversation, where Dr. Taher gives further insights as it relates to how he transformed his condition and now living such a healthy and robust life, and also more insights on his book, Open Heart, and so much more. So be sure to catch up part 2 of this conversation. And as always, leave a review, rate the podcast, and follow me on Instagram at YP for all things digital media and lifestyle. See you back again, and be sure to tune in and enjoy part 2 of this conversation and future episodes of this podcast. Until next time, it's me, Vi, saying so long.